Let's talk about
Pneumonia 2.
Pneumonia 2. Moana 2. Moana heads
To an island of some kind.
Well, hello, it's the Untitled Film Project Podcast, where we encourage you to go see the movie, then come talk about it with us. Let's talk about Moana 2. Moana heeds the call from her ancestors to sail to the seas on an adventure to reconnect her tribe to the people of other islands, but villains stand in the way.
It's my job as a wayfinder to finish what they started.
Moana, show our people just how far we'll go.
Plus, at the end of every episode, we have the big question.
The big question this week is, what Disney movie would you like to see a proper sequel of? So proper being the key word here, not like Aladdin 2, where it's like direct to VHS back in the day, or maybe a Guardians of the Galaxy, not a Disney movie, but go with me on this. Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special doesn't count. It's got to be a theatrical release. That's what we're considering proper. A theatrical release sequel.
Oh, like WALL-E 2, we effed up the earth again.
Yes, like that.
Well, there goes my answer. Let's get initial takes on Moana 2, starting with Justin Bradford.
How far will you go, Bradford?
I'll go pretty far if it means we have a movie theater system that is bustling. Okay, because it's good for us. It's good for theaters. It's good for the entertainment industry. It means we're going to get more just money funneled into it and hopefully better movie theater experiences. So, the weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, became the highest grossing Thanksgiving weekend ever. $422 million domestically, so in the United States. That's $222 million for Moana 2, $117 million for Wicked, and $44 million for Gladiator 2. I mean, that is...
You know what's not on that list?
Red One?
Yes, that's right.
Because it's been out for a month. Sorry.
It made $11.
Business season. No, it's already streaming. So that's where they're going to get their money, because people will watch it and streaming the whole month of December.
For sure.
Right?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you. I just wanted to make sure.
But anyways.
It was a great weekend for movies.
And I know Jim had a post about that as well.
Yes.
It's busy. And it's been a while since we've seen more than a week straight of just bustling movie theaters, right? And I say this not because it's like, rah, rah, Hollywood. It's more of, we want good movie theater experiences. Yes. My local theater, it's only a 12-screener, is actually getting an upgrade to a Dolby in one of the theaters.
Oh, congratulations.
That's great.
Thanks.
It's an improved experience.
Yes. And we want this money funneled in so we get better experiences. Hopefully it means they hire more staff, because staff deserve to be paid well as well. That we get that to control concessions and cleanliness. Things like that is what I think about the movie theater experience. I want that money coming in so we have that.
All those things that say, I'm not going to just wait for this and watch it on my couch.
Exactly.
I want to make it, it's too big.
And
I'm willing to make the investment
Yes.
to go somewhere to see something.
Because when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sees something in IMAX and says, okay.
Don't even go there.
No, but Moana 2 dramatically helped with that because the timing was perfect for this, okay? Before I even get to my initial take on the movie, I just want to talk about how Disney was extremely smart, as well as Wicked being extremely smart about when they release these movies. So when you think, when Disney said, you know what, we're going to change this TV series into a theatrical release, and we're going to release it Thanksgiving, because they started looking at all the different releases of which one's going to be a true family movie that's going to drive people to the theaters when the kids are out of school for multiple days. You have family that needs something that's safe for everyone to go watch. It could be fun. It's a story you already know, so you have an idea of what you might experience, and it's not something, I wonder if it's just going to be awful or not, right?
Known quantity is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
All those things start lining up, and Wicked just kicked it off, right? And still had a great weekend, even though Moana demolished it, but still had 117 would be a great opening weekend for any film.
That would be
just a second.
If you're joining us for the Moana 2 discussion,
We're getting to it.
And I'm saying you haven't seen Wicked yet, you can take your kids to see it. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just side
So
note.
all that to say, Moana 2, whether you hated it or loved it or thought it was meh, it did something for the box office that was drastically needed and give it that oomph for families to have something to go and watch that was good for them.
Yes.
Now, my take on the film was, overall, it was all right. I mean, you could tell for me in the first and second act that it was taken from TV. I could see different segments where you're going, okay, this is typically TV because they added a lot more characters, which typically you would have in television. You can't have 2 characters leading an entire animated series, right? I mean, just look at it.
Sure.
Third act, I thought, was really strong. I really did enjoy the third act because you found the heart, finally, of the entire movie was in the third act, and that felt more movie to me. Music was not as strong. Lin was not a part of it. Beyond was the best song. You didn't have as much memorable songs. It's not as much of a memorable movie for me. The animation, still very beautiful, still plenty of heart throughout it, but it's going to be very difficult for something like this to match up to movie number 1. What is most important for me is we got to see even more representation of Polynesian culture and the history of Polynesia throughout this film, through music, through dance, especially way more in terms of dance and culture there, as well as just some lore as well too, which I think is very important because we hear that. In TV, you're probably going to take some more chances in television sometimes through this than you would in film. But overall, I thought it was great for families. It's obviously not better than Moana 1. They're setting it up, spoilers, for more Moana or just into the series. You may see there is a mid-credit scene, just so you know, if you didn't stay for it. There's a mid-credit scene as well, too. But you know what? I was fine with it. I'm glad I got to see it in theaters and experience it with lots of families, and it was just fun to be in the theater for it.
Okay, I'll jump in and just say that I had the exact opposite opinion. I thought it was. I thought it should have been on TV, and I agree that the third act was the best. But I'll say that the songs, while not with Lin and quality, right? My son looked at me. He's 12, and my son looked at me in the middle of the movie and goes, "All these songs are bangers." Which I don't know if I agree with that, but they were catchy. They were fine. They were good. There wasn't kind of a sleeper in there to me. So that was good. But again, it just should have. To me, it felt like a TV show the whole time, like a TV series. I mean, right? And I say that because the songs seem to be, yes, they told the story and all that, but they almost seem to be filler. Like, hey, we need to get to about a 90-minute runtime here. Let's throw a full song in here, and let's throw another one over here, and let's throw another full song over here. It just didn't seem to. They weren't afterthoughts, but they seemed to be like, okay, we gotta puff this up a little bit, and that was really my main takeaway, which is kind of sad, actually.
You know what's really funny though? I feel like the song that actually drove the story along the most was "Can I Get a Chihu?"
Yes, yes, it was.
It actually drove the story
Yes,
because it's Maui's character hyping up Moana to move on, like, get it together, you're gonna lead this. It was a move the story along song, and it was.
Yeah,
rock.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
That's what we want out of a song. Yeah.
One last thing I want to say is that my wife asked me when I got home. She goes, "How was it?" And I said, which we'll get to in a minute. But my point is, I found myself saying, it makes me want to go back and watch Aladdin and Lion King and the movies that I hold very dear, the Disney movies that I hold very dear, that I would put at the upper crust of Disney films of all time. It makes me want to go back and say, were those songs filler too? Because it just didn't seem to. And again, I don't have an answer for that. I haven't had a chance to yet.
Let's save that discussion. Right. We're going to have it.
Yeah, I'm simply saying I found myself saying that. And that's what Moana 2 did for me. There you go, Jim. Sorry about that. I mean,
oh, no, you didn't at all. I was really concurring with what you were saying. My initial take, I have a lot of takes, but I'm just going to say right off from the start, if you wanted to get back into the world of Moana and those lovable characters, that beautiful animation, and kind of what that was, and you just want to return to that, this is a really enjoyable movie. If you're looking for a really great story, I don't think you're going to get it. This movie was a franchise where they said, we need to make another one, come up with a story, rather than we've got a really great story, let's make a movie.
Yes.
And it also seemed like a setup, and I'm just going to say, we'll come back to it, superhero fatigue, and I shall explain. Let's go deeper into the ocean with Moana 2. I teased it with the superhero fatigue. When I was watching this movie, I thought, like, wow, I love Moana, the character. I think she's great. And I was like, the way this is going, this is maybe in the first third of the movie, I'm thinking, she's less of a Disney princess. And obviously they've been like, kind of like changing what the definition of a Disney princess is. But I was like, wow, I'm thinking less Disney princess and more, they're making her into a superhero. And then it kind of dawned on me, I don't like it. Now, I love that she is a powerful, fearless character who is a leader. I mean, there's so many awesome qualities. I still love the character. But I think Disney is kind of gotten now into the more I watched this second film, the more I realized they are running this through the Marvel superhero template in a way. That all of a sudden we're going to get a multiple movie big bad. We're getting mid-credit scenes that tease other villains coming back in.
She's got superpowers.
She's got superpowers. She's the person who doesn't have superpowers, who's just like a normal person that gets them, i.e. like Spider-Man, and
Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden they have them. And I'm going, ooh, you got to be careful here because, I mean, they've already done this to themselves with Marvel superheroes. Don't make the same mistakes you've done with the Marvel franchise in the latest versions of the Marvel universe.
I see where you're coming from, but I think, and I can 100% see where you're coming from because I'm starting to feel like, what are they doing here with her? Because it did address the whole, I'm not a princess.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of people who think you are.
Right.
That's really funny.
And so there are some good fourth wall breaks to the
Sure.
future and everything because Maui, demigod, everything. He can see the future, knows a lot, thousands of years, right, of history. I think, for me, what I felt more like is they're turning Moana into the lore that culture deems as gods and demigods. So I can see the superhero, the heroine aspect, because she's a heroine, right?
A lot of overlap there.
There's there's 100% overlap. So I hope you're not right. Because my feel in my heart was that they're turning into the navigator, right? That they're turning her into more of a demigod. Like she does have power. She has these unique intrinsic powers that she can guide people and reconnect people and use that lore. That it's more turning her into legend of how she would be the one written in stone on the wall. She's the one that's foretold in stories and everything like that. That's the hope that I'm going for, is that they're creating the legend of Moana that would be discussed in the future.
But I think both can be true.
I do agree.
I think they're running it through
what
the
Jim's
superhero
saying,
car wash.
Seth was making the faces because they're trying to digest what Jim was saying, right?
Yeah, and really, I mean my superhero take on this is about 3 or 4 walls back. Okay, this is in the Disney boardroom. Okay, maybe and just it's going influence is going to happen on the movie makers, but I don't think that was like starkly evident and was the main point of everything that was going on. But I sensed it, and we've seen it so much with all the other Marvel franchises that now the antenna are up.
Yeah,
and because it was originally a TV series, that means they're probably planning to have at least a second season, and that's why there's a tease and things like that, right? So it's running it through that gamut of the whole superhero thing with Marvel, right? But you could easily tell that's where the TV thing came back with that scene, mid-credit scene in the movie, that they were going to have that near the end of the last episode of the Moana season to tease the next season of it. But then they're going, well, we can make a lot of money if we put it in the theaters. And they did.
Yeah, they were right.
So it was a good decision.
It's a good business. They bet well.
Yeah,
yes,
they bet well on that one.
Yeah.
But that's where you can see the TV coming right back in there. It's like they were planning another season, not necessarily another movie. Now it's going to be another movie.
Well, from a storytelling perspective, I agree with you. I think it's financially, from a business perspective, they definitely made the right call. Okay,
right.
But from a storytelling perspective, it suffers now because now you've got this TV show that's kind of duct taped into one thing and then presented on a big screen.
At least now they're going to write it for a movie instead of for TV.
For sure.
At least.
For sure.
Right.
But my point, though, is that I wonder if they did this because people like us have said over and over again, oh, it would have been better if that show was a movie. Or, oh, they could have, if Obi-Wan Kenobi that series was a movie, a film, as opposed to a bunch of different, carved up episodes that kind of were forced into square pegs, round holes. If you had just made it a movie, it would have been a lot better. Like, there's all kinds of different things, examples in the Disney Plus universe that is like, oh, if they had just made that a movie, it would have been a better product. So maybe this is them saying, fine, we'll make it a better product, but it wasn't. It was made in
all the
show.
things. This was them saying, we'll do all the things.
Right. That's right.
It's a choice, because some things we will say would have been so much better as a TV show. You could explore the characters more, the plot. You could world build.
Yes.
Then other ones are going, why couldn't they just? This should have been an email. Okay, so Gover, you mentioned just in your initial takes about the songs, right? From the Renaissance period, especially. So we're thinking Little Mermaid, Aladdin,
yes, that
Beauty
big
and the
sweet
Beast,
spot,
Lion
there.
King.
Right.
So let's think about the production value of those songs, right? Who also sang those songs? Because remember, and typically in those movies, and we had it happen again with the live action Beauty and the Beast, you'd have the movie version.
Yes.
Then you had the credit version, which was usually from pop stars.
Correct.
At the time, right?
That's correct.
So therefore, I don't think it was one of those where those were meant to be filler songs. They knew they had a banger from the big one, right?
Yeah.
So Whole New World
Elton
was going
John
to be a
would
banger.
do- yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And you had, Menken and
Yes.
Can You Feel the Love Tonight
Yes.
was going to be a banger.
That's
like
right.
you knew which ones because of who was producing them and who also was singing them afterwards.
the best in the game.
So I'll just say that, like, in terms of what we get from some musicals nowadays, granted it's different with streaming because you'll have things like from Wicked that chart, which is Broadway and it's charting. It's not necessarily released
Right.
to be a top 40 hit
Right.
for a music artist, but because of streaming, that happens now, which I think is awesome.
It is
because
awesome. That part of it is awesome.
Songs get their due.
It jumps into the cultural consciousness.
Right.
Yes.
So just like with the Disney movie, like with Frozen, right? All that kind of stuff. Let It Go charted, right? So all these.
Encanto,
Yes.
it had a-
So there's probably maybe one from Moana 2 that has a chance that's beyond, but even I don't necessarily see it. That was the only banger to me, but it wasn't written as one. You can tell in Moana 1. There were two, obviously.
Yes.
They're written
How Far
to
I'll
be.
Go.
Yes, and You're Welcome.
Right, that's
Were
right.
written to be bangers.
Right.
and, they did it.
And it just
They're
has
great.
that brain space
Yes.
in people's heads. That's my issue, really, with this one, is that you can just tell because it was different songwriters, which the songs aren't awful.
No.
They're not bad. They're fun, but they're not memorable because they weren't written to be memorable. You can just feel it, right? Just in your soul, you can feel which songs are meant to have more meaning, drive a story along, be memorable. And that was the issue there. Again, I was fine with the story. The third act hit me. Like, I started to get some chills, especially just from a cultural perspective, even though I'm not necessarily Polynesian, I'm Filipino, but there's that strong connection with islands and things like that, the culture and everything too, of when finally that goal is reached and you hear the horn, you see other people, and I get some chills talking about it right now. The third act for me was the best of this movie. Like, that's where I felt. And that's what you want to be memorable. And
That's the only part of the movie I felt stakes.
yeah, there were stakes.
Instead, it's the first 2/3 where you're just telling me over and over that there's stakes. I felt it in the third.
Finally felt it because it didn't feel like a TV show. Like I said in my initial take, the third act actually felt like it was one big third act instead of what probably was going to be 3 episodes or something, right? So that's what I wanted more from the movie, is for it to feel like a movie, and that was the problem there. So now Moana 3 comes along, or whatever they do with it. My hope is that they write it well enough to where you feel stakes throughout the entire movie, and that we do get some closure. Because here we still didn't get full closure because they had to tease more. And I was wondering too, with the non-villain in the middle, right? And I was like, is she going to turn? Is she going to turn? What is she truly like? Is she being deceptive, Moana, or should she just lure her there for her own needs? Like, I didn't know, and I was wondering. Well, they didn't wrap that up. They got to the end. It's like, this is the end. Like, they didn't wrap it up. Oh, so they know there's going to be more. Please just give me closure of a story. That's what I want with the third one. Wrap it up as a trilogy. Don't leave any more out there. We don't need that.
All right, let's get to scores. I'll kick things off. I really liked being in that world. I enjoy that world.
Way to say it.
I just wasn't blown away by the story or the songs. And to me, yes, they had a high bar to set. Songs, I'll say, I don't think any of them rose to the level of the original ones, okay? Especially when it became not happy songs or whatever, or establishing songs, but when songs were there to tell you about the emotions of the character or the moment, they felt very early American Idol, when they would write a song for the finale and the winner to sing. This is my moment. I've worked so hard to get here, and now I'm here. It's just like, no, that's crap. That's bogus. You're better than that. Bring in a great songwriter and elevate this movie back to what it could be. So, I have a lot of little picky things that I didn't like about this movie, but overall, it's an enjoyable movie. If you want to return to that world again and just kind of bask in it, it's perfect. It's great. Your family's going to love this movie. I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
Go.
We'll let Disney guy go last.
Yeah.
For me, again, I thought the songs were good, not great, but my son was right in the sense that, not bangers, but it was like, okay, everyone was worth my time. Right? How many times have we gone back and watched a Disney movie or whatever it is, and you kind of fast forward 3 or 4 minutes from a song because it's kind of boring and stupid and slow, and there wasn't any of that. All of them held their own. The third act is worth it. It's worthy of the movie itself. It felt like a film. It had the most stakes. It was the most enjoyable section of the film that I watched in the theater.
As it should be.
I mean, right. But
so
we've seen plenty of movies that aren't.
Oh, totally. So
they kind of fall apart in the third act. Yeah,
should be, thankfully.
So, but going back to the first two acts for me were seriously put together with duct tape, a TV show, and made into a movie.
A little rushed.
Yeah, a little rushed, but at the same time, filler. It was so much stuff that could have been cut in this, and it's just, to me, it's you can't produce a movie in the 21st century and have this much fat on the bone. Everything's got to matter. Every line has got to point to something, or at the very least, to kind of like foreshadow this, or it's a hint to that, or a callback to whatever. Like every line of dialogue, every scene, every action has got to culminate somewhere in good storytelling. The first 2 acts were all over the place. They were slow. They were boring. I was leaning back in my chair for probably the first 45 minutes of this movie. I just didn't care about what was going on. I've been thinking a lot about this. I enjoyed my time in the theater if I'm a family man, which I am, but I'm saying this because my son enjoyed it, I enjoyed it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
But if I went by myself to see it, which this is not necessarily for me, but if I'm like, I'm a huge fan of Moana 1, I'm going to go to see this, and I went by myself with a couple friends, it's such a waste of time. So for me, I'm going to give it a 5.5. I just didn't care. It doesn't stand up. Not to the first one. I mean, to a theatrical release. This easily could have been a TV show. It probably should have been. The third act rescued it for me. 5.5? 5.5.
5.5.
See,
yeah.
I didn't come in with a score on this one like I usually do, so I had to struggle for it. 5.5.
I was wavering around too, though. If it makes you feel any better, I was having a hard time knowing what to score because this movie is made to satisfy a mass audience, and I think it did.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the numbers certainly.
And Gover wasn't frantically typing a lot before we started recording.
Right.
Typically, he's trying to get his thoughts together and prepare.
I'm coming in blind on this one.
Yeah.
I'm winging it.
So for me, I enjoyed myself. Again, it's always going to be compared to the first when you have a sequel like this because we are getting so many sequels. And
just buckle up, everybody.
There isn't always something wrong with it, right? Like sometimes you have like Inside Out 2. Yeah. It's great.
Yes.
I would say better than the first.
Right. And then you have something more original, like The Wild Robot comes along and you're just like, oh my gosh, you feel so much. We want a good mix of original and moving stories along that we feel like need to explore more into a character or into a world, right? We need balance. We haven't been receiving too much balance from a lot of studios. It's not just a Disney thing because they see there's money in it. Because look at what's making money. Inside Out 2 made a ton of money, right?
Just this weekend.
Right,
Gladiator 2, Wicked, which has already been, property on stage, wildly successful. So, I'm not going to call it a sequel.
It's not original, though.
It's a return to what we already know. And now we got Moana.
And look at Frozen 2, what it did. We know we're going to get another one. Toy Story just How many we don't know until they're 90.
Well, 2025,
as Ryan Reynolds would say.
2025 is the laundry list of sequels anyway.
Oh,
like
so
everything
much.
coming out.
Like this is the prequel.
Get ready.
Yeah, get ready for it. So okay, so while I'm glad we got more because I do love this world and exploring more of Moana, and Ali Carvalho she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
she's a great actress. She's great vocals.
Yep.
She carries so much. She has so much control in her tone that I love hearing her sing. And she's very busy. You look at her IMDb. You keep scrolling, it only goes to 23. Like that just shows how busy she is with voiceover work and acting and everything. She was great in Mean Girls. Talk about two different sides of an actress, right? In terms, she played Janice in Mean Girls, Janet in Mean Girls, and then you have this. So it shows she's versatile as well in terms of what she can pull off. So I love her. It is getting very exhausting with how much rock we're getting because we are going to get very soon a live action Moana.
Because that's what you need.
Too soon.
Like we've already seen some of the photos from set and everything like that. If you're going to give us live action, you have to let it breathe as the animated version first.
We've talked about this.
8-9 years, not enough. It has to be a callback to nostalgia.
It has to be a generational thing.
Yes.
Exactly. It has to be generational. I know we've discussed this.
See it as a kid,
This is the
then you
first
see it when you
episode
have kids.
that you're seeing of ours. It has to be a generation. There's a reason why they decided to go back to the Renaissance first because they're like, millennials and Gen X are just going to flock to this. And they did. While
And
they
they
weren't
were
the
great
best.
films.
And the live actions weren't always the best.
No, I mean the original.
Right.
Sorry.
And the live actions weren't always the best, but people still flocked to them. Aladdin made a lot of money.
Yes, it did.
Beauty and the Beast made a lot of money. You know we're
And
going.
whose Aladdin was it?
Was it Guy Ritchie?
Yes, it is Guy Ritchie's
Guy
Aladdin.
Ritchie's Aladdin.
It's the only time his name in the credits was not larger than the format of the screen.
You know we're going to get live action Frozen eventually. It's going to happen, right?
Yes.
All this to say is that while I'm glad we got to explore more, we know there's going to be more. Did it need to happen? No, it didn't need to happen. They wanted to happen for the money part of it. And obviously families and children, there's so many children that were loving it and talking about it and very excited afterwards. You do need content for that. You need content for families to be able to watch, especially around the holidays. You need something that's going to stick with them. This is going to stick with a lot of people that are in the age range of 2 to 9. Like this, they're going
I would say
to
agree with that. I'd say even higher.
Potentially even higher, right?
Yeah.
It's going to stick with them, and now, especially their Moana stands, which it was funny the fourth wall breaks and how they just call out things. You have like fake Moana, the wannabe Moanas,
Yes,
and everything too with their Pua as well. But all that, it's not as memorable. That's okay because it's hard to beat the first one. I am along with Jim here. I don't understand all that true hate. Like it is getting some true hate on the internet. Like, it's okay to not necessarily care for it. It's not the first one. Or I think Gover's totally fine with his take on it as well. But we're getting people that are just full-fledged adults that are hating on a family film that I don't think deserves hate. It's one thing to not care for it, say it's not for me, which you even said. It's not for you. It's for families. Because Rotten Tomatoes, 65 critic, 87 audience. Audience score, I think, is for this one's what you go by. It's like, did people at least enjoy their time with it? That's all that matters if you're going to spend your money, right? So for me, I give it a 7. I'm glad I went to go see it. It's not going to be as memorable. If I want Moana, I'm watching the first one, but I'm going to be drawn to the second one to keep the storyline going for the third one.
At the end of every episode, we ask the big question. The most important thing we want to know is your opinion. You can let us know via social media and in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. The big question this week is...
The big question is, what Disney movie would you like to see a proper sequel of? And again, if somehow you missed the beginning of the episode, we're using proper because we're not talking about straight to VHS, straight to streaming, a holiday special, blah, 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 blah. We're talking about a theatrical release that is a sequel to a movie that Disney or Pixar, I think we're opening up to Pixar as well, has done that has not had a sequel made to it yet. So what Disney/Pixar movie would you like to see a proper sequel of? Bradford, you're the expert of Disney, so we'll start with you.
Oh, you're starting with me. Okay. This one, for me, is very important because there's a lot of source material that you could have a sequel with. And when it was first announced that Disneyland, California Adventure, we did a land dedicated to this film, I was very excited because I feel like this film doesn't get talked about enough. It deserves so much more love because it's a great story. It's about love and friendship and support for each other, yet it's still superhero. And that's why I love it so much, because while there's so much fatigue out there, I think this film has so much heart in it as well, in discussing friendship and family and chosen family and how you save the world and how you deal with loss as well, that there's still more to this world to explore because it is a made-up world meshed of 2 cities of San Francisco. And so for that reason, I'm going with Big Hero 6.
Great answer.
That's a really good
Great
one.
answer.
There's so much source material. It's a comic book.
That movie is awesome.
Originally a comic book series, so therefore you're not having to come up with something fully original. You have source material you can work with, which gives you a little bit to go forth with, which I feel like is important for a sequel, that you're not having to come up with it for the sake of coming up with it. You have stuff you can work with that people will appreciate.
That's great. I like that answer. Big Hero 6, yeah, it gets forgotten.
It does.
And it's
a shame.
It shouldn't. It's a pretty good movie,
Really
man.
good. All right, Jim, you want to go second?
Sure. I 100% was spoiled by Bradford's joke. I want to see WALL-E, the sequel. I want to see the next, what happens. Okay, the Earth people come back. Now you've got WALL-E, you've got the people that were on the starship, and they're starting over. To me, you've got like everything to choose from story-wise. It could go all. Are they going to repeat the same mistakes that made them, destroy the planet and leave Earth? Or there's so many possibilities. I love the character of WALL-E. Partially, my dog is named after WALL-E, although you spell it like LLY instead of LL-E. I think that would be something people would really want to see, and if it's a good enough story, it would be fantastic.
All right. My answer,
Go over.
I'm taking a little bit of a different tact on this in the sense that I'm using it as a way to re-educate society.
Oh, Snow White and the Six Dwarfs. Ooh.
No. Close. Because Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does not have a proper sequel, but we are getting a live-action remake of it,
We
right?
are. Ooh,
So
that one's going to be interesting.
So yes, so there's my point is though, there's all these different movies like that. Pinocchio, we saw a couple intonations a couple years ago, different ones, right?
At the same time.
At the same time, Dumbo has had a thing. So all these movies like that have been brought to a new audience. Okay, so whether you attach to them or not, whether you think they're as good as the original or not, blah blah blah. That's not the point. The point is that they are now they've now been brought to another audience, a new audience that doesn't remember them from the originals or their childhood or whatever. So I'm using this as an example, as a way to remind people of one of the greatest Disney films of all time that has kind of been forgotten. And it's an iconic scene, which you'll hear in a second, but the movie itself isn't really always put on the top echelon of Disney films, rightfully so, but I really, really like it. So I'm going to go Lady and the Tramp 2. There has been a Scamps. Hold on. There's been a Scamps adventure, but it doesn't seem to be. I tried to look and make sure. It seems to be direct to VHS, direct to video. It wasn't on the theatrical release.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to see Lady and the Tramp, what they're doing now. I want to see their kids' journey. I want to see them arguing as an old married couple. I want to see the whole thing. Okay. So Lady and the Tramp 2 is that's what I want to see.
Instead of the spaghetti,
Yeah.
I want to see them like a double straw coming out of an Ensure bottle because
Yes.
they've gotten older.
That's right. It's a Metamucil straw. It's maybe they're arguing over a checkbook and they're both have the checks in their mouth. I don't know, whatever it is.
Dinner's
Dogs
at
are writing
3:30.
checks.
Yeah, well, hey. There's been if a sponge can talk below the sea
How many
with
years-
a pet snail,
So if we're
dogs
talking
can
about
write
them being
checks.
senior citizens, it'll be 3 years after the original?
Sure,
Because of dog years?
whatever. I don't care. Lady and the Tramp 2. That's my nominee.
Lady and the Tramp 2. They go to the hip doctor.
No, Lady and Trampier. I don't know. Whatever you title it.
They took my meatballs.
Let us know what movie would you like to see a proper sequel of that came out of Disney Pixar. You can let us know through social media. Let's all give our social media handles, which if you're watching, you can see below. Jim, I am Jim Chandler now on pretty much all the platforms.
Justin B. Bradford on Blue Sky and Threads and TikTok.
And I am It's Gover Time on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Gover JKG on Instagram.
Okay. And there's stories behind all of that, but it doesn't matter.
That's right. We don't need to talk about that. This is not another time nor place. You can also, of course, contact us at Untitled Film Project Podcast and anywhere on the socials, and we would love to interact with you about your answer to this question, about what you thought of Moana 2, or about anything movie-related at all. We'd love to hear from you.
Mike over sucks.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.